Hey, my friend. So this video, I'll be commenting on Tony Parsons, and this is an early video which I really like. It's the name is "What is Awakening?" So he talks a little bit about how he sees awakening, and I love this video, so I wanted to react to it and show it to you guys. Here we go.
So all there is this. There is no guru, there is no seeker, there's no creation, there's no destiny, there's no journey, there's nothing to find. All there is this, and this is aliveness.
So wanted to already comment on that one. So nothing to find. Of course, there are different states of mind or perception, we could say. But everything which you'll notice is always reality, is always this. So in a way, that doesn't change, right? We still perceive this. And then in how we see the door, how we see the can of Coke, how we see the lights, how we see the sky, how we see our partners, how we see ourselves, that will all change. But inherently, reality is, and reality is as it is. And just the can of Coke won't change, but our perception of what that is will change experientially.
Simply aliveness, apparently happening. Existence apparently happening. And this aliveness is happening to no one. Sounds happen. Walking happen. Seeing happens. Seeing is simply happening. Images arise and are seen. Breathing is happening. Another noise is happening. Blood is coursing through the body, yes? Blood. All of it is simply arising. It's simply happening, apparently. But nobody is doing it. Nobody's doing noises. Nobody's doing seeing. It can't be taught. I can't teach you. No, who can teach you to breathe? Who needs to teach you to breathe? Who can teach you to make the blood run through your body?
So all the things that are here already are just here. That's what he's saying. It's just happening, right? And it's we're looking for this amazing state, for this other thing than this. Well, actually, all there is this. So that's what he's pointing you back to, right? Is this which you're experiencing instead of this meta world in your head where you think everything will change or you'll somehow go to heaven or whatever.
Who can teach? Who needs to teach you to see? Seeing simply happens. Everything that happens doesn't have to be achieved. It just happens. In the next 3 or 4 hours, you're going to move and ask questions and breathe and drink coffee. It's just going to happen. And the strange thing is, it's not happening to anyone. This is the strange thing. In the appearance out of nothing, arises the story of me. The moment the thought, I am a separate person, arises. That's the game. And then we fall into the idea that we are definitely separate people in a world that we have to negotiate with. A world that's out there that's separate, that we have to deal with. And somehow find our way through. And we're taught by our parents and by teachers and by priests or whatever that this is the way you have to be, this is the way you have to behave to succeed in the world. In very simple terms, succeed in the world. In whatever way that could be. So we all learn, we all become absolutely sure that we are separate individuals, and in order to get what we want, what we think we want, we have to make an effort. And in order to obtain what we think we need to make us happy, then we can choose this or that. We can definitely choose this or that. We do it all the time. I'm quite sure I'm an individual and I choose this or that, and that one's the right choice and that one's the wrong choice, maybe. It's all very, very difficult because although we learn that we have to succeed and do better and become better at whatever it is we're doing, it's actually quite difficult because, of course, it can fall apart. You know, all our efforts can be completely blown apart in 2 minutes by some event. But when somehow, even if we do succeed in certain things, when we get to somewhere where we think success is, it's never fulfilling. It's never whole. It's all right for a while, you know, the fast car and the 3 blondes and all that. Great.
It's amazing to see that what he's saying is that what you will achieve, quote unquote, in a relative world won't make you happy. Right? That's what we see from all these celebrities who are not happy even though they're really successful. So success in the world is not, I mean, I wouldn't say it's unimportant, but it's but it's definitely not important too. So it's just what is. It's what's happening. It's something where when we look at it from this forced way, when we force ourselves to do something with a certain energy, and then the thing we don't like is that certain energy. When we do it from this calm and collectiveness, this relaxedness, it's something we like. You see this about all these artists. At the beginning, they force themselves, for example, to do a certain thing in a certain way. And then when they've established themselves, you see them relaxing, you see them becoming more confident, you see them getting more at ease. Not all of them, but most of them. And then actually their best work arises. They become original. They choose to do the thing they love with the platform they have. And then they get to enjoy it. So it's not really, again, about the success, but it's about which energy are you creating from.
But somewhere it's very transitory and it doesn't fulfill. And so some of us look further. We begin to look beyond achievement and beyond getting things. And some of us end up by finding out that there's something called enlightenment. And so we hear about some guy who is so-called master, who will teach us to become enlightened. And somehow this rings a bell because maybe enlightenment is the answer. Maybe enlightenment is so beyond all this achieving that we can finally find that wholeness that we long for. But so we go to a teacher of enlightenment, and again what we find actually is like going to school and going to, you know, the new job and all, and also especially being married to someone, we're continually being told how we should be. Even in enlightenment, we get a list of things that we need to do in order to get enlightened.
Yeah, not only to get enlightened, but once we're enlightened, we should be, we should also be perfect. And you see it in all these gurus that they end up being normal human beings. So yeah, we never lose our humanity, right? And that's the interesting thing here as well.
So again, the message is the message of speaking to an actual person, an apparent person, a separate person, who can choose this or that. By choosing this or that, they can get something.
Even with spirituality, he's saying, there's still this idea of this forcefulness of, I'm doing this, I'm doing the spiritual thing right now, right? This is spiritual ego, spiritual achievement, spiritual materialism, we could almost say. I've achieved this state. I'm enlightened this way. Are you? You know, it's like a competition. It's still this spiritual striving.
Previously to that, there's certainly a sense that if you make an effort, you get something. It seems to be like that. So we really fully also believe that if we meditate or self-inquire or destroy the ego, whatever that is, if we drop desire, that's the worst one of all, dropping desire. If we can do those things, then somehow we will get something. Because that's how it seemed to work before. But this is where we meet ignorance. This is where we meet the real ignorance. This is where we meet the teaching of imprisonment. Because the teaching of imprisonment is that I am enlightened, you can become enlightened. You are a separate person that can become enlightened. So if you do this and this and this, then you'll become enlightened. This is the teaching of imprisonment. It imprisons us in the treadmill, the prison of separate individuality with choice. And we go on and on. We can go on and on for years eating rice and meditating in caves and nothing happens simply because we are trying to become enlightened.
So this is interesting, right? So he's saying there is no separate person, right? And there is no free will. So all these teachings are forcing you in a way that is not helpful. And I can understand that. I resonate with it a little bit. A part of me is not resonating with it, and I can tell you why. That's because, yes, there's no free will, as in will just arises. But then again, there is will. There is some sort of movement where, like he said, you make a choice. And that choice comes from a certain will. And is that free will? No, it's just arising in the moment. But we can use it, right? We can use it to pick things and to put our effort somewhere. That's the paradox. Well, both things are true. On the one side, you could say, I have no control in what arises, what will arises. And on the other side, you can say, but there's still this sense of will which makes a choice. I do think that spirituality is often framed in the wrong way, where the starting point is wrong and people say, oh, you're a separate person, something is wrong with you, you need to fix yourself. That's totally incorrect, in my opinion. And then there's this sort of created this whole sense of, but once you're enlightened, everything is amazing and everything is la la la. So that separate person is gone, So you as a separate person need to work really hard. While the truth is you're already not separate. You're already infinite source. You're already that. That's why his book is called The Open Secret. It's a very nice book, by the way. It's open because you're already that. There's also these different states which are called to in a different way, where you experientially realize that. But is there a need to experientially realize? Oh, not per se. If you notice that is how that wants to express with you, when you notice that happening, when you notice everything is bringing you towards that, then fine, you can go along. But is that something you need to pick? Is that a better choice than material achievement? No, not per se. That's just a choice, right? That's just what's happening, we could say.
There is no such thing as an enlightened person. There never has been. No person has ever become enlightened. Because the whole idea of a person becoming enlightened is a total contradiction. It's a total ignorance. Awakening is the realization that there is no one.
So there is no person. When you have no self, then there's no self to be enlightened, right? Because enlightenment is no self. It's the dropping of the sensation, which creates this sort of separate experience. Which, on the other hand, you could say it's not a separate experience. It never has been a separate experience. There's nothing wrong with the sense of self. I've said that in the past. Right? It's just a sensation. So when you experientially have that no self, that's not per se, that's a different sensation. I wouldn't say that that's better. That's a personal experience. If you've been suffering really hard as a self, yes. If you haven't been suffering that much, I wouldn't say that it's better. It's just different. What is nice is just this, stepping out of the treadmill, just being relaxed, this cooperation with what is. It's like this beautiful, I've heard that on Adyashanti's audio, where he says this beautiful quote by Anthony de Mello, like it says, enlightenment is cooperation with the inevitable. And that's not what the state of enlightenment, that's not a description of the state of enlightenment, but it is a beautiful description of what true freedom is. True freedom is cooperation with the inevitable.
It drops away, there that which is sought becomes apparent, but it becomes apparent to no one. It just is apparent. Because, of course, it never came and it never went away. That which we seek is always present, is totally constant. That which we long for is already there. It just sits and watches us rushing around looking for it.
Oh, that's so
The
beautiful.
imaginary hour. It is oneness. It is alive. It's nothing like the picture we have or the picture we're presented with about enlightenment. We are, the mind has an idea of what enlightenment is like. It's very beautiful and very still and all-seeing and all-knowing. All problems are no more exist. There's no anger. There's just a lovely sort of fluffy, gorgeous.
Yeah, this is a constant, right? This is a constant misperception of no self or enlightenment. We talked about this with Jim Newman, talked about this with several teachers. It's like there's this idea that without a self, or with enlightenment, quote unquote, there's no human tendencies of like things like fear or anger or things we don't like, right? But we're still human. That's the interesting thing. That doesn't mean that we can't work on those. It makes total sense to work on those, but we're still human.
This is the idea. But when awakening happens, it's a total surprise. It's a total surprise to that which still has an idea of what it was going to be like. Awakening is totally natural and totally ordinary. Oneness, aliveness is totally natural, totally ordinary, and wonderful. Far more wonderful than this thing here can ever imagine. This thing here has got such a silly idea of what enlightenment or awakening is. But when awakening is seen by no one, it's realized that liberty, that freedom, the nature of natural seeing is just so colossal. It's boundless. It's boundless freedom. Everything arises in boundless freedom. It's falling in love with this. We walk round this, walking around simply in love with this, with whatever is. We found at last, well, we haven't found, when we are no more, what is found is the perfect lover. The perfect lover who never leaves, never judges, totally is the expression of unconditional love.
It's very beautiful what he's saying, but this is again a little bit of marketing, right? He's not trying to do that, of course, but there is this quality of being, which is totally, it's like a quiet contentness. It's like I've heard Josh Putnam talk about it as not as dopamine, but oxytocin, as sort of cuddling, a feeling of cuddling your dog. That's what's here, and that's what he's describing as well. And it's a sort of kind of beautiful universal love, which we experience in everything. And of course, the ones we love, we can experience a little bit more maybe. But I also want to say, and that's a general comment, is this is not awakening or enlightenment. Seems like when people talk about this that it's one way. But just as the awakening process and people on the streets have different experiences, just like that, we can have different experiences with enlightenment. No, it's not all the same, right? It's not all the same. Not everybody has the same experiences.
Everything. And the aliveness that I speak about is the aliveness of emptiness and fullness, of nothing and everything.
So this nothing and everything are these two aspects of reality. And the everythingness or the fullness aspect is something that most people are aware of and they notice during the day. That's form, right? And we are often very much focused on form, which is totally fine. But what comes online with no self and more like this realization is actually the nothing aspect, the emptiness aspect, which is also here, which is also very beautiful. And that aspect, together with the everything aspect, is actually this one reality. And we can start to notice both aspects.
This is the nature of radical aliveness. It comes out of source, it comes out of nothing. And it is nothing appearing as everything. So there's a different fullness in it.
And he says it's nothing appearing out of everything. And there's this sense of that everything is appearing out of nothing. But it's not per se linear. It's, as Buddha says, it's like dependently arising. It's like arising together almost. It's both there at the same time. We cannot know what is first. What is first? I don't know. Form or formlessness, they're so together.
It's a wholeness that we can't see all the time that we are something, an individual. All the time that we are an individual, we don't see clearly. We see through a veil. And when we look with the eyes of a businessman. Because somewhere, when we look at things as separate individuals, we either look to protect ourselves from what is seen or to get something from that which is seen. We don't look as lovers. We don't look as lovers. We look as business people. That's natural. There's nothing right or wrong with that. That's the way it is. That's the game that oneness plays, pretending to be two, pretending to be fine, pretending to be greedy. That's the game. There's nothing right or wrong with it. That's the way it is. And then afterwards, when there is no one, what is seen uncluttered. Just what it is.
I agree with that. And I especially like the part where he's saying we tend to look as a businessman instead of a lover. That's beautiful.
The expression of unconditional love.
I really love this video by Tony. Thank you so much for that video, Tony. Thank you so much for watching. If you have questions for me, feel free to put them in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't. And if you would like to have a chat, feel free to schedule a free coaching call. And if you're interested in the group Q&As I'm doing every last Sunday of the month, then just let me know and I'll send you the link so you could maybe check that out. Much love to you. Thank you so much and see you soon. Bye, my friend.